Okay, so we're on unit 3.8. And what we're going to be working on today is long division. Long division of polynomials. Long division of polynomials. Now, hopefully you remember that a polynomial is just many terms. So it's not like a set number of terms. Okay, we're just going to do long division with many terms. So before I get into the polynomials, let's kind of refresh our minds about how to do long division just by itself. Okay, so let's say I gave you the
36.
problem 21 into 789.
Whoa.
21 into 789. Okay, so the first thing you would do is you would look at the first two numbers. And you want to think, how many times does 2 go into 7? 3. Okay? So you take 3 and you multiply. 3 times 2 gives you 6. 3 times 1 gives us 3. What's my next step?
You subtract.
Subtract. Okay, so first I started by multiply. My first step was multiply. My second step is subtract. Now, how do you know that you're supposed to subtract? You just know. Is there a minus sign there?
No.
No. There should be, though. Okay? Because really, what did you do to know to subtract? What would you have to do to get a minus sign there? You would multiply by a -1. Okay? So we never told you that in elementary school because it was a little, out of your league at that time. Okay? You didn't know about multiplying by negatives. You just knew you subtracted. Well, once we're going to deal with polynomials today, you will need to subtract, okay? But you need to actually write the sign there. So just put a minus sign, okay? Then we actually do the subtraction. Now, these are nice in columns already, okay? So 7 minus 6 gives you 1. 8 minus 3 gives us 5. Then what's my next step? Bring down the next term. Okay, so step 3 was to bring down, okay? If you bring down that 9, then you think of, okay, how many times does 2 go into 159? That's 7, right? So 2 goes into 15 7 times. If you multiply 3, you get 147. Then again, start all over. Subtract, so we multiplied, then subtract, so you'd get a 12. Now, good news is we're not going to have to deal with decimals. So you don't need to put the 0.0 and keep going. But what is this? What's that called? That's a remainder. Okay, now, we're also not going to write R on the side. Okay, we used to write like R and then the remainder. You're actually going to write this remainder. So it would be 12 over 21. How is the 37 attached to that fraction? Is it attached by add, subtract, multiply, or divide? It should be attached by addition, okay? If you don't put the plus there, it tells me that it would be attached by multiplication. That is actually wrong, okay? So it is attached by addition. Now, I just made these steps. Good thing is these steps are going to be the same. Okay, so we're going to follow the same steps, but with polynomials. So let's actually see some polynomials. So for example, number 1, if I want you to divide x minus 2 into x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2. X minus 2 into x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 2. Now, before you start freaking out and thinking, oh, I can't possibly do this, trust me, we're going to make it as simple as possible, okay? You need to look at the first term and the first term. And I want you to think to yourself, how could I get, what would I have to multiply by to get from x to x cubed? You would multiply by x squared, not 2x, but by x squared, okay, x to the second power. Then once you're doing the division basically, now you actually want to multiply. So my step 1 was to multiply. So I am going to multiply. X squared times x gives you x cubed. X squared times negative 2 gives you negative 2x. Then I'm going to subtract. So my next step was subtract. But before you can subtract, you actually need to change all of the signs. So we're technically multiplying by negative 1. But what you need to remember is just change the signs. Okay? So if you have a different color or a pen or something like that, you need to make sure you change these signs. Then we actually add them or subtract them in the columns. The first thing should cancel out. If it doesn't cancel out, you messed up. Okay? The first thing has to cancel out. Then these are in nice columns, so we just add them together. So positive 5x squared and a 2x, sorry, that was a square. Add those together, you'd get positive 7x squared. Then my step 3 was bring down, so bring down negative 7x. Now, think in your head, what would I have to multiply by x to get to 7x squared? How would you multiply to get from x to 7x squared? By 7x. Now, do you think I can just write 7x right there? What do you think I need to do? A plus. Okay, because it is a positive. Okay? So, 7x times x gives you 7x squared. 7x times negative 2 is negative 14x. Now, change your signs. So this becomes negative. This one becomes positive. And add together. First thing cancels. If it doesn't, check your work because you messed up somewhere. Negative 7 and positive 14 gives us positive 7x. Bring down the next term, so that's plus 2. Now think about it. How would you get from x to 7x? What would you have to multiply by?
7.
Positive 7. 7 times x gives you 7x. 7 times negative 2 gives you negative 14. Then change your signs. So negative, positive. Combine like terms. The first ones will cancel. And this leaves you with a 16. Now, instead of writing r for remainder, we need to write a remainder up top. So this is plus 16 over x minus 2. That is your answer. Okay, so our actual answer here is the stuff that's on top of the division bar. Okay, that is long division with polynomials. Now, a lot of these look difficult, but it's a fairly simple math thing. It just takes a little practice to get used to it, okay? Because it's something you've probably never seen before. Now, let's try another one. If I want you to divide x plus 2 into x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 10. X plus 2 into x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 10. So what would I have to multiply by to get from x to x cubed? X squared, right. Then actually do the multiplication. So x squared times x gives you x cubed. X squared times 2 gives you plus 2x squared. Change the signs. So negative, negative. The first things cancel. Negative x squared and negative 2x squared gives you negative 3x squared. Bring down your next term. So plus 4x. Now, how would I get from x to negative 3x squared? Multiply by a negative 3x. So negative 3x times x gives you negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times 2 gives you minus 6x. Change your signs, so that'll become positive and positive. These cancel out. 4x and 6x gives you 10x. Bring down your next one. So to get from x to 10x, multiply by plus 10. then actually multiply through. So 10 times x gives you, oops, sorry, I forgot my negative 10. 10 times x gives you 10x. 10 times 2 gives you plus 20. Change your signs. Negative, negative. Now, this last step is where a lot of people will mess up because they forget to change the signs on like the last step. So please be careful on that. Then when you write the remainder, I actually want you to write it this way. So plus, I want the sign, if it's negative, to go with the top number. Okay, I do want you to write that with the top number. Okay, don't write it on the side because a lot of times it looks like you're writing it on the bottom and it should not be on the bottom. Okay, so that's long division with polynomials. Couple more though.
Wait, why do you have to put a negative? Like, can you do
Right here?
all of them?
Because we're really subtracting.
Okay.
So instead of, you have to, I actually want to change the signs because you're not just dealing with like one thing. If it was just one part, then you could subtract in your head and you wouldn't have to worry about the signs. But since there's polynomials, there's multiple things, I actually want you to show the work and change the signs. Okay, otherwise it's just too confusing to do it all in your head. Okay, let's try another one. For number 3, I would like you to take 8x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2x minus 7 divided by 2x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now, is this the same thing?
Yeah.
This is the same thing. It's just written in a different way. Okay? So you need to rewrite it. Okay? Before we rewrite it, can I like cancel things out in here? Can I reduce?
Yeah.
Please.
You cannot. Okay? You cannot reduce. Cannot reduce things attached by a plus or minus. Okay, you cannot reduce out terms. I shouldn't say things. Okay, I should say terms. Okay, you cannot reduce terms that are attached to something else by a plus or minus. So just write yourself that note. There is no reducing allowed in these kinds of problems. Okay, now that we know that, now we can actually write this. So does this big one on the top, does that go inside the divide bar or outside?
Outside.
The one in the top goes inside the bar. Okay, it goes inside, underneath the bar. So 8x cubed minus 4x squared plus 2x minus 7 goes under. The 2x squared, the one on the bottom, goes on the outside. On the outside. Okay, now, what would you have to multiply by to get from 2x squared to 8x cubed? 4x, right. So 4x, then actually multiply. So 4x times 2x squared gives you 8x cubed. 4x times 4x gives you plus 16x squared. 4x times negative 5 is negative 20x. Then change all your signs. So negative, negative, positive. If you need another color or something, ask me and I will give you a colored pencil. Okay? Those will cancel. Negative 4x squared and negative 16x squared, negative 20x squared. You don't need colors, but it's pretty helpful to make sure that if you have a color, it's a little easier to remember that you did change those signs. Okay? Then drop down the last piece, so minus 7. To get from 2x squared to negative 20x squared, multiply by a negative 10